Hey, everybody. Welcome to A Whole Word with Pastor Vickers. I hope and I pray that you have had a wonderful day. I want to invite you right now to go ahead, like, comment, share, engage. Let us know that you are being blessed and help us take the gospel to the globe as we strive to become a whole people, taking the whole gospel to the whole world. Don't forget, you can help be a blessing by partnering with us in our 4321 mortgage elimination campaign, $20 above your tithes and offering. And hey, if you can do more, if the Spirit of the Lord leads you, we invite you to do that as well. Join me in Psalm 121 today as we begin walking through the Psalms of Ascent. And we're letting you know it's up from here. Trust me, it's a whole word. So excited to welcome you to A Whole Word with Pastor Vickers. I want you to join me in Psalm 121. And as you're doing that, allow me to express my gratitude to you for taking time out to invest in your own discipleship development. I know you could have gone anywhere, but I'm so grateful to God that you've tuned in with us today, and I hope this time is a blessing to you. Psalm 121. Reading from the NRSV translation, I invite you to like, heart, share. The further we are able to share, the more we are able to extend our reach into the global community as we share the good news of God through Jesus Christ. Psalm 121, hear the word of the Lord. I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where will my help come? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. He will not let your foot be moved. He who keeps you will not slumber. He who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is your keeper. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. The Lord will keep your going out and your coming in from this time on and forevermore. The word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. Amen. As we talk today, we're coming from Psalm 121. Psalm 121 is a part of a section of Psalms beginning with Psalm 120 through Psalm 134, known as the Psalms of Ascent. There are 15 Psalms that are packaged together, that are nestled together, connected, because it was believed that these were the Psalms that were penned and sung as Jewish pilgrims were traveling from all over to Jerusalem to celebrate one of the three great Jewish feasts, whether it was the Feast of Unleavened Bread in early spring, whether it was the Feast of Pentecost, which was celebrated mid to late spring, or it was the Feast of Booths, which was celebrated in early fall. Each of these major feasts were very vital to the lives of Jewish people. And from wherever they lived, wherever they were, they would make their way from their place of habitation to Jerusalem, the holy hill, the place where the name of the Lord dwells. This is significant. This is significant. One reason for us, because it reminds us that our faith is a singing faith. It is one where we share and join in communion, in fellowship one with another to celebrate as a collective all that God has done for us. Now, this is interesting because we've now grown to a place where we're so progressive, where we are so advanced that when it comes to worship, that we believe that if we don't have a golden voice, if we don't sound like Whitney Houston, if we don't sound like Aretha Franklin, if we don't sound like Mahalia Jackson or some smooth Sam Cooke-like crooner, that we're supposed to sit back and be entertained. But that's not the nature of our faith, and that's not the nature of God's expectation for us and of us when it comes to worshiping God. That our faith, what God has done for us, what God has done for our foreparents, for our ancestors, and what God is presently doing in our lives is meant to be celebrated, it's meant to be remembered, and it's meant to be shared together. And so whether you have perfect pitch or you are completely tone deaf, our faith is a singing faith. And this is something that we are called to do in our individual lives as we go about our daily mundane tasks. And it's something that we are expected to do as we gather as a faith community to reflect upon and to celebrate all that God has done. And so if somebody is beside you and they're a little off, that's a part of the beautiful chorus of community. We are called to worship God together. I also think that that is an indictment on all of those who espouse the philosophy that I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. Well, if God is spirit, and those that worship him, according to John 4, must worship him in spirit and in truth, then we are also called to worship God in the way that God has outlined and ordered. We are called to worship God in community, in fellowship with other believers, and we are to do so with joy and thanksgiving. And so those early Jewish pilgrims would come together, they would travel together, and they would sing these songs. They would sing these psalms of ascent. Some say that these were sung as they were walking up the 15 steps into the temple, that these 15 psalms were designed to point to the 15 steps. And others say that, well, it's not necessarily the 15 steps, but they sung these songs all along their journey. And that's interesting to think about, because when you consider your own walk with God, when you consider your own experience, your own journey, all along the way, from the beginning of your journey to this very moment, we've had something to sing about. And that's why Psalm 121 is so exciting to consider. It's exciting because it is a reminder of the assurance of God's protection, not only along the journey as they traveled from great distance, but all throughout our life and all throughout our experience with God, we have been assured of God's protection. Sometimes these psalms were lifted antiphonally. They were sung antiphonally, which means that one person would begin and offer a line, and the majority of the travelers would respond. The leader, the priests, would begin by offering one part of the song, and in chorus of thanksgiving, the people would respond with another line. Here in Psalm 121, we hear what is being offered by the travelers. I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where will my help come? My help comes from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. In times of distress, it was said that the people of this time would look up toward the hills. This is beautiful poetic language. Some assert that looking to the hills means that they were looking toward Jerusalem, the holy hill, because at the top of the hill was the temple. It was the place where the name of God dwells. That looking up to the hills meant that they were looking to the place where the name of God resides for protection, for provision, for power. At the same time, it is also offered that looking up to the hills was something that was done during a time of war and conflict, because it was believed that if there was an ally coming to the rescue, that the help would come from the hills and they would descend from the mountain to attack the enemy in protection of the ally who was in need of assistance. And whether the person looking toward the hills is looking toward the temple, or looking toward an ally. We know that we have the greatest ally if we just look up for help, for peace, for power, for protection, for provision. The psalmist says, I will lift up my eyes to the hills. Where will my help come from? And then the psalm responds with assurance that my help comes from the Lord. Whether the Lord is the help or whether the Lord sends the help, my help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. And when you consider the fact that there's no greater help than the one who created the cosmos, than the one who knows all about creation and the one who knows all about you and me, we can respond to life's problems with confidence. It doesn't mean that the problems go away, but it does mean that in the midst of our adversity, in the midst of our challenges, we can sing with joy and thanksgiving because we know that the Lord is on our side. And so we lift up our eyes to the hills, knowing that the maker of heaven and earth is on our side. And then the psalm continues with even greater assurance. The psalm continues by reflecting upon all of the trappings and all of the footholds that life can bring. And it sings with continued and even growing assurance that God is with us and gives us confidence in terms of the kind of protection that you and I can look forward to when we know that God is on our side. He will not let your foot be moved. He who keeps you will not slumber. He who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. Think about that kind of assurance. Think about that kind of protection, that you and I can have confidence, that you and I can rest in the middle of all that's going on because we have a God who watches over us, that God won't even let you slip. God will not let you fall. And because God keeps watch over you, because God keeps watch over me, we can lay our head to the pillow with confidence, knowing that we are protected no matter what may befall us. He will not let your foot be moved. He who keeps you will not slumber. He who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. Look at the confidence that we have individually and the confidence that we have as a fellowship of faith. So not only will God keep you and me, but God is faithful to keep all of us. That's something to celebrate. That's something to sing about. One of the other beautiful theological points of the Psalms of Ascent is that it is offered that perhaps these Psalms were sung as the pilgrims were taking those 15 steps up into the temple, or perhaps they were singing this along their journey, or perhaps as the Psalm itself is being sung, as it is being offered, that it moves toward a crescendo, that the psalm itself ascends to a place of confidence and praise wherein we find joy, peace, and thanksgiving. So whether it is being sung going up the steps or up toward Jerusalem along the journey, or whether the psalm itself is ascending, we can sing with joy and with confidence, knowing that there is movement. There is a launching out of sorts, if you will, as this psalm is being offered. The Lord is your keeper. Once again, giving us the confidence and the reminder of who's doing the keeping. The Lord is your keeper. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. Why is this significant? This is significant because sometimes pilgrims traveled from a great distance. And because they traveled a great distance, there are times when in the heat of the day, the sun would beat upon them, and it seems that they would become restless and the sun would zap them of their energy to keep going. And I don't know who this word is for today, but perhaps you feel as if you've been journeying with the Lord a long time and you've been zapped of your energy. The pandemic has robbed you of your strength. You've continued walking, but you've gotten weary along the way. The psalm comes to remind us that the Lord is your keeper and the Lord is your shade at your right hand, that the Lord gives you relief. The Lord gives you comfort. The Lord gives you a reprieve all along your journey. He's your shade at your right hand. The sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. That even the things that are designed to give us help and escort us along our way, sometimes they can become a weapon against us. The heat of the sun and even the darkness that surrounds the light of the moon can weary us along the journey. But because God is your keeper, nothing along the path will stop you from getting to the place where God is allowing you to journey, because the Lord is your keeper. That's a word of comfort for us as we engage the tenets of this singing faith that we have. That is something to sing about, that even though the journey gets long sometimes, the day can become brutal and the night can become long, God is keeping us. The Lord will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. The Lord will keep your going out and your coming in from this time on and forevermore. Whether they were traveling during the Feast of Unleavened Bread, making their journey to Jerusalem to celebrate the Passover, or 50 days later, celebrating Pentecost, remembering where they were recipients of the power of God's Spirit. Or maybe later at the Feast of Booths, where they celebrated receiving the law, making their journey back to Jerusalem to commemorate that great day. No matter the journey, no matter the celebration, they were assured of God's protection. Can I tell you why you and I ought to be singing as part of the fellowship of faith? Whether you have perfect pitch, whether you're tone deaf, whether people believe you could sell out arenas, or you should only sing in the shower. You and I should celebrate being a part of this family that has this singing faith, because God has protected us individually and because God protects us as a whole. You and I don't have to stay up all night because the God we serve neither slumbers nor sleeps. You and I can find faith to keep putting one foot in front of the other. Why? Because God gives us shade. God gives us a reprieve from the heat of the day. God gives us perseverance to keep traveling during the night seasons of our lives. There's no journey so long. There's no journey so difficult. It doesn't matter how numerous the enemies might be that surround us. God has given us the assurance of His protection. And can't you take a moment right where you are and just celebrate the fact that at the genesis of the pandemic, and we believed that we would be here for a few weeks, for a month, for a few months. And what we initially believed to be a few months removed from our places of worship and from life as we knew it turned into 1 year, and that 1 year has turned into 2 years. And yet all along that long, extensive journey, the Lord has protected us. Yes, we have lost some people along the way. Yes, some of us have been sick. Yes, some of us have even lost jobs and income. We've had to make some huge adjustments. But despite all that we have endured and all that we have weathered, the Lord has still been with us. And now as we enter this new sense of normalcy and return to our houses of worship, just as at one point the Israelites in exile made their return to Jerusalem, we still have something to sing about. we still have something to come together and give God praise about. All along our journey, all along our experience, God has given us the assurance of his protection. And so I say all that to say that is up from here. We're going up with the Psalms of Ascent, just to remind ourselves and to thank God that as a family of faith, we have a reason to sing. I sing because I'm happy. Whether you like it or not, I sing because I'm free. His eyes on the sparrow. And I know he watches me. That's a whole word. I hope you were blessed. Share this broadcast. Help us be a blessing. We'll see you next time. Peace. Perhaps after hearing today's lesson, you've saying within yourself, I want to be assured that I have God's protection. Well, if that's you today, we invite you to take the next steps in your walk with God. Perhaps you want to give your life to Jesus Christ. You want to come as a candidate for baptism. We invite you to type baptism right now. Or maybe you're saying, I want to be plugged in to a family of faith where I can share in the celebration of God's assurance of his protection. We invite you to connect with the Fairfield family. No better day than today. We would love to be your family. I would love to be your pastor. And wherever you are, wherever you fall, we celebrate with you today that you have been Spirit-led to make a decision for Jesus Christ today. And so we rejoice with you. We thank God for you. We want you to know that you need not worry about what tomorrow is going to bring, about what's going to happen along life's journey. We have been assured of God's protection. And because of that, we can celebrate not only individually, but as a family of faith, knowing that God has our back. And believe me, that's a whole word. We love you. We'll see you next time.